Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Yvonne Pre-Show. I'm Yvonne Pre, your little ray of darkness, and today we are joined by Canadian voice actor, and Goosebump alum, Amos Crawley. Amos, thank you for coming onto the show,
Thank you so much for having me.
and happy birthday as well. I believe your birthday just passed.
It's funny that you should bring that up. The internet claims that March 2nd is my birthday, and it's not, in
It's
fact.
not.
No, but every year I get very kind messages from all over the world wishing me a happy birthday that it's almost started to feel like it is my birthday on March 2nd.
Then
But that's actually just something that's on the internet for some reason. It is, in fact, my brother's birthday.
who's done your IMDb? You need to have a chat with them.
I know. It's true. It's true. I don't even know how that works.
I actually know someone who used to have his birthday. He used to change it about 4 times a year just to see who actually knew what his birthday was.
That's very funny.
And then he'd get
Um,
family who would do it, and you're like, wait a minute, you should know out of all people.
Funnily enough, changing your birthday on IMDb is like very difficult because actors are vain and they keep trying to say that they're younger than they are. So you have to really jump through a lot of hoops to do it. And it doesn't bother me to get, it's nice to get birthday messages regardless of what time of year it is.
Well, when is your birthday then, if it's not on March 2nd?
It is in March. It's on the 7th of
On the 7th.
March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's
happy
pretty
birthday.
close. Pretty
Yeah.
close. Thank you. Thank you.
So you have been going through probably a bit of a whirlwind with the pretty much 90s nostalgia that's coming out and everyone getting back into Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? How does it feel to see that something that you did as a kid has come back with a vengeance and so much love?
Um, It's kind of extraordinary. It really did catch me by surprise, and because we've done some conventions and stuff, I've gotten the chance to chat with a couple of other alums from the show, and I think we were all very surprised. I don't think any of us had any real idea um, that that 30 years from now anyone would care about this thing that we did when we were kids. So I think my initial reaction was just surprise and I was sort of bemused by it. Now that I've spent some time in the community of it and going to conventions and chatting with folks online and doing podcasts like this, I, I'm increasingly kind of like emotional about it. Like it increasingly is uh, uh, quite a like a vindicating thing almost like it's just so interesting because people come up and they say like, hey, every Halloween I watch The Haunted Mask or X, Y, or Z, right? And you go like, oh well, I have movies that I watch every Halloween. I have movies that I watch with my kids every Christmas, or it's certain things that have that meaning for me. And it's kind of mind-blowing to think that you have something to do with that tradition for somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just been a great joy. It's just I'm immensely grateful. Is the
Because
only real way to answer it.
if you can understand, yes. And I actually have the whole original set. Took me a long time considering they were very hard to get some of the later pressings, but managed to get them.
Good for
As
you.
and also the series on DVD, which was quite an interesting watch because we actually aired these in Australia in 1 hour blocks, which I don't think you actually did in America and Canada.
No, I think they were half hours
Yeah.
here.
So these were
Yeah.
hour blocks. So you get obviously the one episode, the one story or two. And there were actually episodes we didn't air here, as in like Say Cheese and Die with Ryan Gosling. I didn't realize until I watched this one.
Wow.
And
I
to
don't
think,
even think that's available in North America. I've never seen that before, a
this
DVD
is
set.
from the UK, this one. So the UK
Oh,
rating
okay.
at the bottom that I'm currently hiding with my hand if I can. Yeah,
Okay.
their little PG one. But yeah, this is a great little one. This was yeah, every episode of it. There were episodes.
Wow.
I think we stopped watching it or airing it after a while in Australia, and a lot of things that were edited out as well. I noticed. I was
Interesting.
someone who we taped them off television, so I had my order of episodes as they were released, and Haunted Mask was the first to be released, but yet we had Welcome to Camp Nightmare was the first one in Australia. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah. So when I saw the
Wow.
order, I'm like, that's not correct, but it must be. It's the way you guys did it. But yeah, so were you as a kid, were you involved in the Goosebump craze as well?
So, I read the Fear Street books,
Got those, yeah.
um, because I'm just a little bit older. So I think by the time Goosebumps came out, I was, already kind of like 13 or so, I think. And so it was like maybe like a little too young for me. What's interesting is coinciding with the sort of renewed interest in it, or at least my discovery of the lasting interest in it, is that my youngest son is 8, and he's crazy for the Goosebumps books. Like he loves them. He first, it piqued his interest because he heard me talking about it, and then whenever we find them in thrift shops or anything, he doesn't have quite the whole set like you do, but he does have a whole bunch of them. And so I'm actually reading them now for the first time, because I read them with him.
Well, what was a great thing about hunting these down? I feel like hunting them down kind of adds to the charm because they're pre-loved. They're just, I don't know, sometimes the wrinkles just really just add to the feel of them. And I used to get some bulk lots of eBay simply because some of them are really hard to find. And I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
this bulk lot and I saw there was a joke book in there called 101 Silly Monster Jokes. And I'm like, what's this? I've got this book. Why is it in here in this lot? And I looked it up and it was actually a book that R.R. Stein did under a pseudonym back in 1987, which is the year
Wow.
I'm born. So I've loved him from basically day one. So yeah,
Wow.
these really have a big part for me. On my bookshelf, I have them all facing out. I call them my Stein spines. I like getting to look at them because just the covers were just amazing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're iconic, right?
They are. They really are iconic. And very impressed with episode with part two of the Haunted Mask, just how incredibly accurate we actually got the mask to the book as well. Although the
Yeah.
one that Carly Beth gets in the first one is incredible to look at. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I think Catherine actually still has that mask. She's got it like she told me that it's like in her parents' garage. Like they gave it to her at the end of shooting, and I think there were two masks and they gave her one of them. And she's been murmuring about auctioning it off for charity. So
Oh wow.
start saving up would be my advice.
Well, actually, there is. I think you may have spoken to him. I think you've spoken to the Goosebump crew I think it was in the
Mhm.
Shadows. Yeah. Beyond.
Those were actually kind of the first guys, sorry to interrupt you, but those were the first guys who kind of alerted me to the existence of the fandom.
Well, beyond from that is actually a friend of mine. I've had him on the show as well, and we had an episode about Goosebumps and his collection that he actually went to Guinness to actually see if he could make a record out of it. Uh, he was actually telling me that he was trying to organize a convention for, and I think you and both Catherines are actually involved with getting involved in it. Real shame that it didn't go ahead because I think it would have done great.
Yeah, I mean, we have never stopped communicating, so I'm still hoping that it will happen at some point, because it would be great. He's making a fan film right now, is he not?
Yeah, he's doing he loves Slappy, so he's doing a
Oh,
Night of
okay.
the Living Dummy one. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, he'll do a great job with it. He's Slappy's, yeah, just always been his ultimate. He knows it back and front. He'll do a great job with this. So when Goosebumps was actually, being that you're an actor, you would have seen, oh, they're making a Goosebumps series in Canada. They were ready to, put out casting calls for episodes and whatnot. How many stories or episodes did you say what you would have auditioned for, or was Haunted Mask the only one you did?
So all in, I did 5 episodes, technically, but really, like Haunted Mask Part 1, Part 2, Haunted Mask 2, Part 1, Part 2 is 4 out of that 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth one is actually only my voice. But and the Haunted Mask was the first one. So we were just that's the only thing I ever auditioned for.
Oh wow,
Um,
incredibly
yeah,
lucky.
yeah, totally, absolutely. Uh, Even though I don't think in part one I'm in it very much. I think there's much more to do in part two. But yeah, Tim Bond directed it, who I had worked with previously. So I don't remember. I have to be honest. I don't remember a huge amount about the audition process. In that era, in that time frame, being a child actor, at least in Canada, was like it was a fairly small community. You'll no doubt have noticed that if you watch like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and a couple of other things from that era that were shot in Canada, you're going to see the same faces over and over and over again.
Mhm.
There weren't really that many of us, so auditions were fairly frequent. And as a result, with a few exceptions, um, usually like big American projects that had multiple callbacks or something. I don't have a lot of memories of them because it was such a regular part of life.
Because your
Um,
family's really big in the industry, aren't they? Like you've been doing acting and being in the industry for a couple of generations.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my grandparents on my father's side, and then both of my parents were performers. So it's a world that I grew up in without a real concept of anything else until much later in life.
Mhm.
You know, uh, there's a funny moment when you're getting a little bit older and you like go over to a friend's house or something and you go like, "Well, where are your parents?" And they say they're at work. And I said, "They go to work every day? Like from 9 till 5?" And yeah. But I had no concept of that. To this day, I'm a middle-aged man and I meet people, other parents at functions at the school or something, and I ask people what they do, and then they answer me and I go, I have no idea what that is. None whatsoever. It's a weird thing to grow up in a in a an unusual industry. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got a little off topic from your
No,
question.
no, 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 more than fine. If anything, I've
Um,
a little forgotten what the question was.
I think it was about the audition process,
Was
but yeah, no, it would have been Haunted Mask would have been the only one that I ever auditioned for.
wow, that's actually incredibly lucky. Like as you said, it was quite small, but I can imagine at the time they would have been trying to get through probably 20 episodes to try and get them locked in because they'd been ordered. Yeah, incredibly
Yeah,
lucky to be able to do that. And also with you and both Catherines, you were actually maybe the only three that ever came back for a prequel or no, sequel episodes as well.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Lucky us.
So how's that? You could have been like, hey, just come back and work for us. And you're like, see, we're that good. We don't even have to audition. We just get to walk back in.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's pretty much how it worked. Yeah. Um, and we were a little older, and it was a little bit more involved, at least as far as my character was concerned. So I think that would have been where we kind of got to know each other quite a bit better.
Also, you had a one of the cast members swap. Steve was replaced with is it John White, I believe, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've lost track of John. We worked together again a few years later on a TV show that he was a regular on in Winnipeg, and I came and did a guest spot on it. But to the best of my knowledge, he's now a screenwriter.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, I think he writes like Hallmark movies
Oh really?
and things of that nature. This is the grist from the rumor mill. But yeah, no, I never got a story behind why that replacement happened or I don't know if it was an availability issue or if it was just it was going to be a bigger role and they wanted somebody who was a little bit more experienced or something. I don't actually know.
Because he had also been in another episode as well. He was in the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. So
Right.
yeah, because it was interesting to have that in that story. There were two people, him and also Catherine Long, I believe, had actually done two different stories where he had done that and she had done Night in Terror Tower. And Night in Terror Tower, that because it was the first one that was ever released on tape, at least here in Australia. So
Oh, okay.
that was the one that we saw everywhere. There was billboards, posters, there was everything for that. So
How interesting.
yeah, she always like stuck in my mind. She was like the Goosebumps actress from the very beginning for me.
Um, yeah, I seem to recall like a fair amount of loyalty from the production crew because I know the only other episode I ever did, again, it was just sort of they called me up and they said, "Hey, do you want to come in and do this?" I think because it was voiceover and that was kind of a huge part of my career was doing voiceover work, they wanted somebody who they thought could like handle that piece of it.
Yeah.
But again, it was like they seemed to, their contacts list was pretty tight, and they were pretty good about looking at it.
Which episode was the other one that you did the voiceover for?
It was about a werewolf. I want to say it was maybe called Bad Hair Day or something. It was a guy who was turning into a werewolf.
My Hairest Adventure.
Maybe that's yes,
Yeah.
there it is. And the actor that they had hired was terrific, but had he was very mumbly,
Hmm.
or maybe he had been ill during the shoot. I don't know exactly, but it was very hard to understand what he was saying. So they asked me to come in and redo his voice.
Oh,
And again, as someone who had done a lot of voiceover work, including a lot of like rhythm band and matching, I was pretty good at lip syncing, for lack
oh.
of a better term. So what we did was it was like a real 11th hour thing, and I think I went into a recording studio that they had to book overnight because it was such a quick turnaround. So I went in at like 8 o'clock at night, and to do the full half-hour episode, I think it took 6 or 7 hours because it does take a while to
Mhm.
get the rhythm and to match it, and so we were there from 8 until 2 or 3 in the morning or something
Oh, wow.
doing that, and yeah, that's my Goosebumps Easter egg.
Well, mentioning the voiceovers, there was actually something that I discovered while doing research for this that you had done. It's actually a cartoon of mine, quite a favorite one. And guessing what
Hmm.
kind of show you're currently on, I'm guessing you might know which one I'm referring to, of being Tales from the Crypt
Yeah,
Keeper.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I went nuts for this when I was a child, and then when I saw that you had done I think 2 episodes of this, I was like, "Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?" This used to scare me more than Goosebumps did. This scared me more than the adult version of it did. This is incredible.
Totally, totally, totally. Yeah, I remember doing it because I was such a huge fan of the HBO, like the live action one. That I was very excited to get to do that.
Because this was one of the shows used to play every now and then on a morning TV show called Cheese TV here, first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Only horror show that they'd play. Otherwise, it was like Dragon Ball Z. So I didn't care about that. I just wanted to watch this. Another
Right.
thing my dad would take for me. My dad used to make compilations of cartoons for me and my brother. Mainly my brother, he liked turtles and stuff. Every now and
Hmm.
then there was the odd Halloween episode or scary episode or something for me, which
Okay.
always was like, yep, that's Michelle's one. That's Yvonne's one. Slipping names. But yes, this was incredible. I absolutely love this series.
So horror for you was sort of like from the get-go, it was always the thing that you were the most attracted to?
It was. I don't know, just I remember like finding my parents watching it's like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh,
Oh, I've lost your sound. I'm so sorry.
can you hear me now?
Ah, yeah, you're back.
Perfect. Yeah, so they're watching a Nightmare on Elm Street, and my dad's like, "Well, you'll get scared if you watch this, so you can't watch it." I'll be fine. And I think he let me watch it to be like, "Well, if you get scared, that's on you." And I thought for him,
Right.
great. He was smiling, he was laughing, he was funny. And also, I'm the only sibling I have that has dark hair. Everyone has blonde hair. So when I first saw Elvira when I was about 5 years old, I fell in love with that woman straight away. So I've wanted to be her since I was 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can blame my parents for that, even though they'll say, oh, but horror movies are for boys. And you're like, no, the final girl is the most important thing in a horror movie. What are you talking about?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's always been there. Unfortunately, I didn't really get that many Goosebump books when I was a child. A friend of mine used to get them every single time they were released, and I was incredibly jealous. So when we kind of like went from primary school to high school, we kind of lost touch. And I was like, "What happened to your Goosebump books?" My mum chucked him out, and I was like, "Your mum could have given them to me. They would have been brand new, only read once. They would have been pristine." But yeah, yeah, that's where my love of horror starts. And if you can see everything behind me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, quite a big thing for me.
Well, again, that's been one of the neat things about getting to know the sort of community a little bit is how many times people have come up to myself or Catherine and said, I'm a lifelong horror fan. Often it's people who are working in the industry, they are filmmakers, they are writers, they are, and they say, Goosebumps was my gateway drug. And
Yeah.
that's the reason that, um, which is cool, you know.
A couple of years ago, I did a documentary about vampires with a friend, and he was one of the questions was, "How did you get into horror?" Apart from Elvira and the Nightmare on Elm Street, I remember being in the school library, always trying to find the Goosebump books, find the Fear Street books, and the person who'd be checking the books out was actually a friend's uncle. And every time I bring up a book to him, you're like, "Oh, Michelle, not another one of these. Like enough." And I'm like, "Glenn, sorry, I love them. I can't help it."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Every time I got Fear Street books out, I really hoped that someone would forget I borrowed them out, that the library would just forget and be like, "Oh no, she can keep them."
You just keep them.
Yeah, handing them back broke my heart every single time because now that there are some I did borrow from the library, I have not ever seen again, or they're incredibly expensive and rare to get. So I
Right.
really wish the library had forgotten about them. But so with you catching up and actually reading the books with your son,
Hmm.
with the stories that you've read, if you could be in one of those stories instead of the haunted mask, or in addition to the haunted mask, which one would you pick?
Gosh, that's a good question. I'm not sure, but I will say I would definitely relish getting to be one of the monsters, one of the scaries, because reading them with him, that's where it's fun to do the voices and to do it's all well and good to scream and run, but I think if you were to ask anybody who played um, somebody a little scarier, they would tell you that that's probably the most fun that they had.
Have you read Vampire Breath yet?
No, I don't know that one.
There's a group of kids go looking for their Christmas presents to find there's this hidden room in their basement, and they come across a vampire who's chasing them, and he needs his vampire breath to basically get his life force so he can actually feed off them. And he's got like a Transylvanian accent, and I'm thinking, I think you'd get down having a bit of a Transylvanian accent as a villain.
Yeah, totally. Super fun. I read recently a very interesting biography of Bram Stoker that just sort of really tied in the famine, the starvation in Ireland to vampire lore, and it was just a really because he would have been a child at that time, and when you read the descriptions of the people who were being starved, and then you read the prose of Dracula and the descriptions of the undead, it was sort of a fascinating parallel.
Dracula's actually my favorite book as well,
I mean,
surprisingly.
it's well, but it's one of those books that like I didn't read it till later in life. I think I was 20 or something when I finally got around to reading it. It's like terrifying.
It is.
Like I remember being 20 years old and sitting in my little bed sit reading it and going like this is like I need to like this is scary. Like legitimately scary
Yeah.
in a way that it's kind of miraculous for prose to be.
Well, apart from being a Goosebump fan, I'm a massive Stephen King fan as well. So I've got a bookshelf full of his books. I
Yeah.
remember trying to read The Shining. I was probably 18, 19. I was sitting on a
Yeah.
bus going to a writing course that I was doing after I finished high school. And I'm reading a scene, and it was something very, very simple. It was this is the first night they hear music playing from another room.
Mm.
There's an elevator that hasn't opened properly. Winnie crawls in, and she just flicks out confetti just to indicate people have been around. And I was just, I audibly gasped to have someone turn
Yeah.
around and look at me like, "You right? Like, what's wrong with you?" kind of thing. Like, you're not reading what I'm reading.
I tried to reread The Shining at one point after I had become a father, and I actually found it too difficult because it's at its core that's really what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Is this father-son relationship, and uh, it was just made me so sad. And I was like, I don't think I can finish rereading this.
Oh, because I'm thinking it'd be kind of very similar, say, trying to reread Pet Cemetery as well, which is my favorite
Yeah.
Stephen King book too.
And one of my favorite Ramones songs.
Yes. I've for my day job, I've created a pure 80s and 90s playlist. Predates
Okay.
everyone I work with by a good 20 years. Very sad. I found out I work with two people who don't know who Janet Jackson is, so I was devastated.
Well, you're educating them. You're doing your part.
Oh, I know, because they need to be educated. Don't know who Janet Jackson is. When they said that, I was like, she's playing right now. Oh, is that her? If I could fire you right now, I would do it. No. But yeah, great Ramon song. And also I think probably my favorite Stephen King adaptation as well for books, not for books, for movies. I tend to
Films,
find
yeah,
that
it's pretty
there's
good.
there tends to be a bit of like camp that's attached to Stephen King stories. And I really find that now that they kind of lose it a little bit and I don't know, that they try to put more seriousness and polish it a bit more. I feel like in the 80s, they really captured it just that little bit better with their adaptations.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, because I am a child of the 80s. I'm a little bit older than you, and like I remember seeing all those movies. It really was kind of a heyday for a certain kind of horror film. And I do find it interesting because people my age who are now making films are making some of the most interesting horror films, and I think horror has become in the 21st century a much more respected genre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're saying that I mean, I haven't watched the any of the awards shows for probably a decade or so, but as I understand it, like Sinners is the forerunner to be the best picture this year and stuff. And you go, if you had told me when I was a kid that a horror film was going to be nominated for best picture, you'd be laughed out of the room, you know?
Yeah. It was like when Silence of the Lambs was getting nominated for things as
Yeah, I
well.
guess that was that, yeah. But even then, they really tried to downplay it as a horror film. It was a thriller.
Yes.
It was a procedural. It was a psychological drama, you know?
Yeah, but there's so much things that you can do with horror. Like I'm actually doing an interview with a director and a cast for a short film on the weekend, and it's a horror film. But when I did a review for it, I said it would lead towards kind of a thriller, which I said, well, it's not a bad thing because some people go, oh, I don't like horror, and that kind of lets them kind of make it a bit more accessible to them. But with horror movies, you actually there's so many other things that you can do with the genre where it's not just a case of jump scares and blood and guts or anything like that. You can explore the horrors of just the human condition.
Yeah, I think once you get into that heightened reality, you have an opportunity to explore all kinds of things in a more interesting way. What's one of the nice things that has happened with Goosebumps, or with me specifically with Goosebumps, is how many people talk about um, having been bullied,
Yeah.
and that the haunted mask resonates with them because of that. And I always have time for the kids at the back of the class. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was a chunkier kid in a public high school. So yes, I did very identifiable, really identify with Carly Beth in that instance.
Yeah. Well, and the idea that after having been bullied, you then turn around and become a bully,
Yeah.
uh, is I think a very human thing.
Hmm.
Um, and in a way you can almost talk about it in a less preachy way if there's a cursed mask
Hmm.
or something. It allows you to explore it in a more interesting way.
Yeah.
And I think horror is I mean all kinds of sort of speculative work, but horror in particular is a fascinating way to, as you put it, to talk about the human condition.
It is also the only genre that's actually named after an emotion as well.
Huh. Yeah, I guess that's true. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can provoke a lot more, and you have opportunity to just do more bizarre things with it within the genre as
Yeah.
well. When they created the Masters of Horror series, where they had all those horror directors like John Carpenter and stuff like that do their episodes that didn't kind of hit all that well for people, but they still took a chance with it, and that's you get more chances with horror. You might make something that may not be amazingly scary, but it ends up having that kind of it's so bad it's good quality to it. So there's still
Sure.
something. I love a movie that's so bad it's good. Are you one of those people as well?
Yeah, I can be. I think it depends on my mood. Certainly, in my youth, I was a big Trauma fan. I loved
Yes.
all the Trauma movies. In fact, maybe my biggest professional heartbreak is that I came within a hair's breadth of being in a Trauma film, and it didn't
Oh.
happen, and I really wish it had.
Did you get to make up for it by being in Billy Madison and getting to be in a hilarious movie that everyone
Yes,
still loves
yes,
to
yeah.
this day?
Look, I'm not complaining. I've had great fortune.
Seriously, Billy Madison is. It was a film I used to watch at a friend's house, the same friend who had the Goosebumps collection. I used to watch it pretty much every time I was at a house. I'm talking like 10 times a month or something, always.
Did her mum throw that out too? I hope not.
Oh, no, she better not have. I'm gonna have to have a chat with Pauline if she's done that. But what was really funny with Billy Madison as well? See, I told you I'd go on a tangent, but what was funny with that? My friend she's from a Greek family, and I met her grandmother, but she didn't speak much English. She just knew how to say hello, and she'd smile, and I'm like, it's all good. You said hello. I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
happy to have you in the room. During Billy Madison, towards the end, when you have that guy say, "Mr. Madison, what you said is the most insanely idiotic thing I've ever heard."
Yeah.
Even though he was so dry with everything he said, she burst out laughing so hard. And I love the fact that regardless of a language barrier, she found it to be the funniest thing ever. And it was the best laugh I'd ever heard in my life.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah,
Since you
that's
started
great.
laughing, I'm just like, yes, keep going. It was the best thing I've ever had in my life.
Oh, lovely.
So, what was your experience with Billy Madison? Because that was that like a bit of a bigger production because it was an American one.
Yeah, it was a bigger production. It was it would have been the summer after what in Canada we'd call grade eight. So it would have been the summer before high school began.
Yeah.
So that's one of those audition processes that I do remember because you go in for the first audition and then you get a call back, and then I actually had a second call back and Sandler was there.
Oh.
That was the last round, was that you were gonna work with him so that he could say like, yeah, these kids can hang or they can't. So that was pretty exciting. He wasn't the star that he is now,
Mhm.
but he was a known quantity, and I was a big Saturday Night Live fan. I used to stay up. I remember at like age 10, age 11, like splashing cold water on my face at 11:30 at night because I just really didn't want to fall asleep and miss any of Saturday Night Live, which was on from 11:30 till 1 a.m. In my neck of the woods. So it was pretty exciting. Um, and But it was fresh too, right? It was his first starring vehicle. He'd
Mhm.
been in a few films, but it was his first time sort of carrying something. And so he was obviously surrounding himself with really strong folks, like I remember spending a lot of time with Norm Macdonald, may he rest in peace. He was just like
Oh.
a really kind, funny guy, and in between scenes, he was just really happy to talk with me about books or music or whatever was coming up. Tamara Davis, who directed it, was married to Mike D from the Beastie Boys. And I actually went to see the Beastie Boys that summer while we were filming. And I was like, I wonder if she can get me backstage. And she didn't, and it's probably for the best because I would have made a fool of myself. But just I remember getting to hear, like, I told her I was at the show, and then she told me all these stories about backstage at the show, and it was so cool. And I got to meet Steve Buscemi because at the time Reservoir Dogs was a really big deal. I'd seen it several times. I think I had it on VHS, and I
Mhm.
had a poster on my wall. So there's a lot of memories. And I think it holds up as a movie.
Yeah.
I saw it a few years ago, and there's a sort of chaotic, anarchic energy to it that just like it's still really funny.
Yeah.
There's essentially not really a plot. Like I know there is, but it's just so strange. It's just such a strange film. And I would imagine, not knowing anything about the actual back behind the scenes creative process, but I would imagine that the litmus test was like just, was it gonna make you laugh?
Mhm.
And And if the answer was yes, you found a way to put the joke in.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, it is a personal favorite. So yes.
And
Apart from,
endlessly quotable.
oh God, yes. Don't even get me started because you will be like, okay, enough. But going back to Goosebumps, what would you say is probably one of your best kind of memories from doing either episode or either part?
Yeah, I think during part two, hanging out with Steve and the two Catherines, like I just remember us all getting on like a house on fire and talking about movies and talking about like just being at the risk of sounding maudlin, you know, being a child actor is a weird thing to do. Having a job as a child is a weird thing to do because you're asked to kind of exist in an adult world and behave in an adult way. And it's not that that's inherently wrong or bad, but it's complicated. But
Yeah.
I do remember really clearly in the midst of that and the pressures of that, the four of us getting to be adolescents together. Um, and that's a lovely, lovely thing to remember. And I think I am more aware of it now, having gotten to know them a little bit as adults and realizing, oh, right, no, we had this shared thing.
That's really sweet. I really like that. It's a good answer.
Oh,
It was
thanks.
well, apart from Catherine managing to get a mask, was there anything that you managed to get from set, or maybe something you snuck off that you shouldn't have got?
I've got nothing. I've got
Really?
nothing. Yeah, one of the and my wife of many years will tell you one of my worst traits is that I don't like to keep things. I don't I'm a purger.
Oh
So
yes.
I've never really kept much.
I don't know what you like.
That's curated though. That's a collection. This is a different thing.
True, it's not a case of I don't just buy anything
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. No, no, no.
I live in a shoebox. There'd be no space for them to exist. So it's yeah, very selective. And I don't know if you can see him. I have, well, right up here is a Chucky doll
Oh,
from
okay.
Chucky. I had a plumber come to the house with his young son, and I was like, I'm gonna warn you that there is a Chucky doll. So just thought I'd let you know. I think I scared the young boy.
Chucky is like profoundly scary looking. Like
Yes,
compared to Jason or Freddy or any of the other sort of iconic images of that era, there's something profoundly scary about that doll.
there really is. But yeah, I've had so many people just say, why doesn't someone just kick him? Kick him. There you go. That's all you got to do. It's only so far he can kind of reach you with a knife, kind of thing. But yeah, just kick him. You know, force. You know, it was a hindsight's 2020. But yeah.
It's true.
So, are you like wanting or hoping for your son or your children to follow into doing any acting as well, or would you like them to choose their own path?
I certainly will never stand in their way of whatever it is that they want to do. Um, I think there are easier paths to forge. As I say, I've been immensely fortunate in my life and my career, and I speak to you from, having a roof over my head and being able to raise my kids and all kinds of fantastic stuff that I don't take for granted. Um, but yeah, I have consciously not had them do it as kids.
Yep.
Um, and that is not, I don't say that with any judgment of anyone whose kids are involved or who want to be, but it helps that they haven't had a great desire to either. Um, but yeah, yeah, I would say I won't stand in their way, but I'm also not pushing it on them, and I speak at least to my older boy, I speak quite plainly about the reality of like the ups and downs and the difficulties of it as an industry.
Mhm. But yeah, that's everything I had for you today, Amos. I actually do have
Oh,
one more question before I let you go.
please.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate your time. So, it's be a very silly question, but Do you cut your underwear before you go to conventions just to make sure they rip easier? Someone dared me to say it, so I thought I'd say it, but yeah, I stumbled.
That's a good one. That's a first. That's a first as far as questions are concerned.
Amos, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Hopefully, one day we see each other again on the podcast. You never know.
Anytime. It's been a thorough pleasure to speak with you.
And
And look, the conventions are getting slightly more far-flung, but gosh, I've never been to Australia. So if you know anyone who runs a convention, put a word in.
there's a couple of conventions that get around here. Don't worry, I'll work out something. We'll get you
Perfect.
here. We'll get you here. There's plenty of Goosebump fans, as you can tell with the Goosebump Crew podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, and do all that good things. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.